Sir, can I have your leftovers? The whisper trembles in Chicago's icy night, where Clara, a 7-year-old orphan with eyes like starlit skies, clings to her adoptive mother, Anna. A single woman hardened by life, Anna pushes a rickety cart through dim streets, scavenging bottles for pennies to buy bread. Tonight, hunger gnaws at Clara's small frame. Mama Anna, I'm so hungry, she murmurs, clutching a tattered blanket. Anna's coins, a pitiful few, can't buy a crust. Across the street, in a chandelier-lit restaurant, Nathan Caldwell, a 32-year-old CEO crippled by a mysterious illness, sits alone at a lavish table, his untouched meal a symbol of his isolation. A child's voice pierces his solitude, begging for scraps. Will her plea spark a miracle or unravel a darker truth? I'm curious, what time is it where you're reading? Day or night, share your guesses for this tale's end in 3 to 7 words below, and subscribe to follow their journey. The Chicago night clawed at the city with icy fingers, its chill seeping through cracked pavement and into the bones of those who called the streets home. In a shadowed alley, Clara, a 7-year-old wisp with tangled blonde hair and eyes like twin fragments of a winter sky, pressed close to her adoptive mother, Anna. Their shelter, a patchwork of cardboard and a frayed blanket, shivered under the October wind's relentless assault. Anna, 32, her face carved with lines of worry, gripped Clara's hand, her own roughened by years of sifting through the city's refuse for bottles and cans. The street lamp above cast a sickly yellow glow, painting their faces in stark relief against the damp brick wall. The distant hum of traffic and the clatter of a late-night delivery truck were the only sounds, save for Clara's soft, trembling voice. "Mama Anna, my stomach hurts," she whispered, her small frame curling tighter under the blanket. Anna's heart fractured at the words. She dug into her coat pocket, fingers brushing against a few useless coins, too few for even a stale loaf. "We'll find something soon, sweetheart," she said, her voice a fragile thread of hope woven with despair. But Clara, her gaze bright with a child's unshakable faith, offered a faint smile. "I'll make it better, Mama. I know how." Across the street, the warm glow of La Lumiere, an upscale restaurant, spilled through floor-to-ceiling windows, a beacon of decadence in the city's grim underbelly. Inside, Nathan Caldwell sat alone at a corner table, the clink of crystal and murmur of wealthy patrons a dull roar in his ears. At 32, the tech mogul was a ghost of his former self, his sharp undercut of dark brown hair framing a face both striking and haunted. His green-gray eyes, once ablaze with ambition, now flickered with a quiet ache, shadowed by a mysterious illness that had chained him to a wheelchair for 2 years. Dressed in a tailored white dress shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, and charcoal trousers fitted for his condition, Nathan exuded a refined elegance. A faint scar near his jaw, a relic of a reckless college night, caught the light, as did the minimalist steel watch on his wrist, the sole emblem of his billionaire status. His untouched plate of seared steak and roasted vegetables sat before him, a silent rebuke to his hollow existence. Unknown to Nathan, his paralysis was no accident. His ex-wife, Vivian, had laced his drinks with a slow-acting poison during their final months together, a calculated move to weaken him and claim his fortune post-divorce. The betrayal had left him isolated, his penthouse a sterile tomb, his former allies scattered like leaves in the wind. He pushed the plate away, the scrape of porcelain jarring in the restaurant's refined hush. Then a small figure slipped past the maitre d', unnoticed by the staff engrossed in their duties. Clara, her patched jacket too thin for the biting cold, approached Nathan's table with hesitant steps, her hands clasped to still their trembling, her eyes wide and unyielding, locked onto his. "Sir," she said, her voice a delicate chime cutting through the din, "do you have any food you're not eating? I'm hungry." Nathan froze, his fork suspended midair. In his world of boardrooms and guarded transactions, no one had ever dared ask him for scraps. Her audacity pierced his carefully constructed walls, her raw need a mirror to the emptiness he tried to ignore. "What are you doing here, kid?" he asked, his tone sharp but softening as he took in her tattered shoes and the way her blonde curls clung to her dirt-streaked cheeks. "This isn't a place for children. Clara didn't flinch. I just need a little food, she said, her gaze steady, as if she saw not the crippled CEO but the man beneath. I'll give you something back, I promise. Nathan's lips twitched, a bitter laugh threatening to spill. Give me something, he said, his voice low, almost mocking. What could you possibly have? Clara tilted her head, her curls catching the chandelier's golden glow. I can help you walk again, she declared, her words ringing with a conviction that stole Nathan's breath. The promise was absurd, a child's fantasy in a world that had crushed his hopes. He'd heard empty vows from specialists, charlatans, and priests, all draining his accounts with nothing to show. Yet Clara's eyes, pure and unclouded by greed, held him captive, stirring a flicker of something dangerous. Curiosity. Walk again? He echoed, his fingers tightening around his glass. Kid, you don't know what you're saying. But Clara stepped closer, her small frame radiating certainty. I know I can, she said simply. I've seen broken things get fixed before. Nathan stared, his cynicism warring with the strange warmth her words kindled. He pushed the plate toward her. Steak, potatoes, a roll still warm. Take it, he said gruffly, and go home. Clara's face lit up, a smile so radiant it seemed to thaw the room's sterile air. Thank you, Mr. Nathan, she chirped, gathering the food in a napkin with careful hands. I'll come back tomorrow to start helping you. Before he could protest, she darted out, her small form vanishing into the night. Through the window, Nathan watched her rejoin Anna, who waited anxiously across the street, their silhouettes merging under the street lamp's dim glow. His hand lingered on the glass, a spark of something unfamiliar igniting in his chest. Not hope, not yet, but a question. Could a child's faith pierce the darkness he'd lived in for so long? Outside, Clara handed the food to Anna, her eyes gleaming. He's nice, Mama Anna, she said, nibbling a piece of bread. He's just sad, like you were before me. Anna's heart clenched, her instincts screaming danger. Clara, you can't just walk into places like that, she scolded, pulling the girl close. It's not safe. But Clara shook her head undaunted. He's not a stranger anymore. He's Mr. Nathan, and I'm going to fix him. Anna's gaze lingered on the restaurant's glowing windows, her fear warring with an inexplicable pull. As they shared the scavenged meal under the street lamp, the city's restless pulse seemed a whisper of change, of a collision between their worlds that neither could yet grasp. The morning sun clawed through Chicago's gray haze, casting pale light on the alley where Clara and Anna began their day. Clara, her blonde curls still tangled from the night's restless sleep, clutched a small bundle in her hands. A bracelet woven from scavenged twine and colorful plastic beads gleamed from the city's refuse. Her eyes, bright as the dawn, sparkled with purpose. We have to go back, Mama Anna, she insisted, her voice a melody of determination. I promised Mr. Nathan I'd help him. Anna, her face taut with worry, adjusted the frayed strap of their cart, its wheels creaking under the weight of yesterday's haul. Clara, we don't know him, she said, her tone sharp but softened by love. He could be dangerous. But Clara's smile, radiant and unyielding, brushed aside doubt like dust. He's not dangerous. He's just lost. Inside La Lumiere, Nathan sat at his usual table, the restaurant's morning quiet a stark contrast to the previous night's bustle. His white dress shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, revealed forearms taut with tension, and his green-gray eyes scanned the room restlessly. The faint scar near his jaw seemed more pronounced in the daylight, a silent testament to a life once lived with reckless abandon. He'd barely slept, Clara's words, I can help you walk again, echoing like a half-forgotten song. Absurd, yet they stirred something in him, a flicker of defiance against the despair that had settled in his bones since the illness took his legs. The steel watch on his wrist ticked softly, marking time he no longer believed in. He sipped his coffee, its bitterness mirroring his mood, and wondered why he'd returned to this table, why he was waiting. Clara's small figure appeared first, slipping through the glass doors with the stealth of a street cat. Anna followed, her steps hesitant, her eyes darting to the staff, who barely noticed the pair. Clara marched straight to Nathan's table, her patched jacket swaying, and held out her handmade bracelet. "This is for you, Mr. Nathan," she said, her voice clear and proud. "Mama Anna says when someone's kind, you give something back." Nathan's fingers paused on his coffee cup, his gaze dropping to the crude weave of twine and beads. Worthless to the world, yet gleaming with intent. He took it, his hand brushing hers, and felt an unexpected jolt, as if her touch carried a current. "What's this supposed to do?" he asked, his tone gruff but curious, slipping the bracelet onto his wrist. Clara beamed. "It's to remind you to believe in things getting better." Anna, standing behind, shifted uncomfortably, her hands twisting the hem of her coat. "Clara, don't bother the man," she said, her voice low. "We should go." But Nathan raised a hand, his eyes softening. "Stay," he said, surprising himself. "Have breakfast. It's on me." He signaled the waiter, who brought a spread of pancakes, eggs, and juice, the aroma filling the air with warmth. As Clara dug in, her small hands wielding a fork with glee, Anna hesitated, pride warring with hunger. "We don't take charity," she said, her voice firm but fraying. Nathan leaned forward, his green-gray eyes meeting hers. "It's not charity," he said. "Consider it payment for whatever this kid thinks she's doing." Clara, mouthful of pancake, piped up, "I'm fixing your heart, Mr. Nathan. That's why your legs don't work. It's because your heart's asleep." Nathan's laugh was sharp, almost painful, but it lacked the bitterness of the night before. "My heart's fine, kid," he said, though the words felt hollow. He glanced at Anna, noting the protective fire in her eyes, the way her calloused hands hovered near Clara, ready to shield her from the world. "Tell me about you two," he said, his voice quieter now. "How'd you end up like this?" Anna's shoulders stiffened, but Clara's chatter filled the silence. "Mama Anna found me when I was little, outside a fire station. She didn't have to keep me, but she did. We find bottles and cans to sell, and sometimes we find treasures." Her eyes sparkled, pointing to the bracelet on Nathan's wrist. Anna's gaze dropped, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was a seamstress, but the shop closed. It's just us now, making do." Nathan nodded, his mind flashing to his own isolation, the penthouse that felt more like a mausoleum. "You're tougher than most," he said almost to himself. Clara, undeterred, leaned closer, her small hand reaching out to touch Nathan's knee through his trousers. "Your legs are sleeping deep, but I can wake them up," she said, her voice earnest. "You just have to want to help people, not just yourself." Nathan felt a strange warmth where her hand rested, a fleeting sensation that made his breath hitch. He dismissed it as imagination, but the intensity in Clara's eyes held him fast. "And how do you plan to do that?" he asked, half amused, half intrigued. "With magic," Clara said simply, her smile a beacon in the restaurant's sterile glow. Anna's face tightened, a mix of embarrassment and fear. "Clara, that's enough," she said, but Nathan shook his head. "Let her talk," he said, his voice softer now. "I want to hear this." As Clara spun tales of broken things made whole, of Anna's smiles returning, of flowers blooming in cracked sidewalks, Nathan felt a crack in his defenses. He didn't believe in magic, not after years of failed treatments and Vivian's betrayal. Yet this child, with her scavenged gifts and impossible promises, stirred something he'd buried deep. He glanced at Anna, her guarded expression softening as she watched Clara, and wondered what it would be like to have someone look at him with such unwavering trust. "I'll come back tomorrow," Clara declared, finishing her juice. "We'll start fixing you." Nathan opened his mouth to protest, but the words didn't come. Instead, he nodded, the bracelet on his wrist catching the light. "Fine," he said, "but don't expect miracles." As Clara and Anna left, the restaurant's warmth fading behind them, Nathan stared at the empty table, the weight of their encounter lingering. Outside, Anna knelt before Clara, her voice trembling. "You can't keep doing this, sweetheart. He's a stranger." But Clara's eyes gleamed. "He's not, Mama. He's Mr. Nathan, and he needs us." Anna sighed, her gaze drifting to the restaurant where Nathan's silhouette remained, a lone figure in a sea of light. Something in her chest stirred, a warning perhaps, or the faint pulse of possibility. The air carried a crisp bite as Clara skipped ahead, her tattered shoes slapping against the pavement, her blonde curls bouncing with each step. Anna trailed behind, pushing their creaking cart, her eyes scanning the street with a mother's vigilance. Clara's chatter about fixing Mr. Nathan filled the morning, but Anna's heart was a tangle of hope and dread. The bracelet Clara had given Nathan, now a fixture on his wrist, felt like a tether pulling them toward a man whose world was as foreign as the stars. Anna's calloused hands tightened on the cart's handle, her mind wrestling with the risk of trusting a stranger, even one whose green-gray eyes held a flicker of kindness beneath their storm. Inside La Lumiere, Nathan sat at his corner table, the restaurant's morning hush wrapping around him like a shroud. His white dress shirt, sleeves rolled up, revealed the faint outline of muscles that hadn't moved in years, and the twine bracelet on his wrist caught the light, a quiet reminder of Clara's improbable promise. His dark brown hair, swept back but slightly askew, framed a face taut with anticipation. He'd returned each day since their first meeting, drawn by a pull he couldn't name. Clara's words about waking his heart, about magic, haunted him, stirring memories of a time when he believed in more than contracts and cures that never came. The scar near his jaw twitched as he clenched his teeth, fighting the urge to dismiss the girl's faith as childish folly. Clara burst through the doors, her patched jacket swinging, a new treasure clutched in her hands, a smooth river stone painted with a clumsy red heart. "For you, Mr. Nathan," she called, her voice slicing through the restaurant's quiet elegance. "It's to keep your heart warm." Nathan's lips curved, a reluctant smile breaking through his guarded exterior. "Another gift?" he asked, taking the stone, its weight grounding in his palm. "You're going to run out of things to give me, kid." "I'll never run out," Clara said, climbing onto the chair across from him. "The world's full of treasures if you look." Anna, lingering at the table's edge, met Nathan's gaze, her expression a mix of apology and wariness. "She insisted on coming," Anna said, her voice low. "I can't keep her away." Nathan waved off her concern, signaling for the waiter. "Sit," he said. "Eat. It's becoming a habit." The spread arrived, fluffy omelets, fresh fruit, warm croissants, its aroma a stark contrast to the alley's cold reality. As Clara dove into her meal, Nathan watched Anna, noting the way her shoulders hunched, as if bracing for a blow. "You don't trust me," he said, not accusingly, but with a quiet curiosity. Anna's eyes flicked up, guarded. "I don't trust anyone," she admitted. "Not when it comes to her." She nodded toward Clara, who was happily sketching on a napkin, oblivious to the weight of their words. Nathan leaned forward, his green-gray eyes searching hers. "Fair enough," he said. "But I'm not here to hurt you. I don't even know why I'm here." Clara looked up, her pencil pausing. "You're here because you're sad, Mr. Nathan," she said matter-of-factly. "And sad hearts need fixing. That's why I'm here." Nathan's chest tightened, her words cutting deeper than he cared to admit. He'd spent 2 years numbing himself to the world, his illness a prison as much as his wheelchair. Yet this child, with her scavenged gifts and unwavering belief, was prying open doors he'd locked long ago. "Tell me about this fixing," he said, his voice softer now, almost daring to hope. Clara's eyes lit up. "It's like when Mama Anna was sad before me. I came and she smiled again. Your legs don't work because your heart's all closed up. If we open it, they'll wake up." She reached out, her small hand brushing his knee through the fabric of his trousers. Nathan froze, a faint warmth spreading where her fingers rested, a sensation so alien it made his pulse race. He dismissed it as wishful thinking, but the spark in Clara's gaze held him fast. Anna's hand shot out, gently pulling Clara back. "Sweetheart, don't," she said, her voice tight. But Nathan shook his head. "It's okay," he said, surprising himself. "Let her." He didn't believe in magic, not after Vivian's betrayal and the endless parade of doctors who'd taken his money and left him broken. But Clara's touch, her certainty, was a lifeline in a sea of despair. The conversation shifted, Clara regaling them with stories of treasures found in alleys, a broken watch, a single earring, a feather she swore came from an angel. Nathan listened, captivated by her ability to find wonder in the mundane. Anna, thawing slightly, offered a hesitant smile, revealing a glimpse of the woman she'd been before life wore her down. She sees the world differently, Anna said quietly. It's what keeps us going. Nathan nodded, his fingers tracing the painted stone. I used to see the world differently, he said almost to himself. Before all this. He gestured to his wheelchair, the words heavy with unspoken pain. Clara tilted her head. What made you sad, Mr. Nathan? She asked, her voice gentle but piercing. He hesitated, the truth. A marriage turned toxic, a body betrayed, too raw to share. Life, he said simply, his eyes distant. But Clara wasn't satisfied. Life's not all sad, she said. You just need someone to share the happy parts with. She pointed at Anna. Like Mama Anna shares with me. Before Nathan could respond, a shadow fell across the table. A woman's voice, sharp and cold, cut through the air. Nathan, darling, who are your new friends? Vivian stood there, her designer coat a stark contrast to Clara's rags, her eyes glinting with malice. Nathan's jaw tightened, the air around him thickening with tension. Vivian, he said, his voice low. What do you want? She smiled, a predator's grin. Just checking on you, she said, her gaze raking over Clara and Anna. You seem preoccupied. With a final, chilling look, she turned and left, her heels clicking like a countdown. Anna's hand tightened on Clara's shoulder, her instincts screaming danger. Clara, undaunted, whispered, She doesn't like you smiling, Mr. Nathan, but I'll make sure you do. Nathan stared at the door, Vivian's presence a dark cloud over Clara's light. He didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time in years he wanted to find out. Vivian's parting words hung in the air like smoke, curling around Nathan's thoughts as he sat motionless at his table in La Lumiere. The restaurant's soft clink of cutlery and murmur of morning patrons felt distant, drowned by the echo of her venomous tone. His fingers, wrapped around the painted stone Clara had given him, tightened until his knuckles whitened. The twine bracelet on his wrist, a child's gift, seemed to pulse with a warmth that clashed with the cold dread Vivian's presence had stirred. His green-gray eyes, shadowed by sleepless nights, flicked to the door where she'd vanished, her heels' sharp clicks still ringing in his ears. Nathan's tailored navy shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, clung to his frame, the faint scar near his jaw, a silent reminder of a life before betrayal. He was no stranger to Vivian's games, but her sudden appearance felt like a warning shot. Clara, perched across from him, nibbled a croissant, oblivious to the storm brewing in Nathan's mind. Her blonde curls caught the morning light filtering through the restaurant's windows, and her blue eyes sparkled with unwavering purpose. Mr. Nathan, she said, her voice cutting through his haze, you didn't tell me your 3 happy things today. She'd started this ritual days ago, insisting he name 3 things each morning to wake his heart. Nathan forced a smile, his gaze softening. All right, kid, he said. 1, your stone. 2, this breakfast. 3, he paused, searching. 3, you're not giving up on me. Clara beamed, but Anna, seated beside her, remained tense, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Her worn coat hung loosely on her shoulders, a stark contrast to the restaurant's opulence, and her eyes darted between Nathan and the door. Vivian's visit had ignited a spark of fear in her, a mother's instinct honed by years of protecting Clara from the world's sharper edges. Clara, eat quickly, she said, her voice low but firm. We need to get back to work. But Clara shook her head, her small hand reaching for Nathan's. Not yet, Mama Anna. Mr. Nathan needs us today. That lady made him sad. Nathan's chest tightened at her words, the child's insight slicing through his defenses. I'm fine, he lied, his voice rough. But Clara's gaze held him, unyielding, as if she could see the cracks in his carefully guarded heart. You're not fine, she said simply. But you will be. We're going to fix you together. Anna's lips pressed into a thin line, her protective instincts warring with the strange pull she felt toward Nathan's quiet vulnerability. Clara, she said, softer now, he's not our responsibility. But Nathan leaned forward, his eyes locking onto Anna's. Maybe I want to be, he said, the words slipping out before he could stop them. Anna blinked, caught off guard, her calloused fingers twitching. You don't know us, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. And we don't know you. Nathan nodded, his undercut hair falling slightly over his forehead. "I know enough," he said. "I know you're the first people in years who've looked at me like I'm more than a broken machine." Clara, sensing the weight of the moment, climbed onto her chair, her small frame radiating determination. "Mr. Nathan, tell me why you're sad," she said, her voice gentle but insistent. "Is it because of that lady?" Nathan hesitated. The truth. A marriage poisoned by greed, a body betrayed by an unseen toxin, clawing at his throat. "She was my wife," he said finally, his voice low. "Things didn't end well." Clara tilted her head, her curls swaying. "She didn't love you right," she said, as if stating the sky was blue. "But that's okay. We'll love you better." Anna's breath caught, her heart torn between Clara's fearless trust and her own guarded caution. "Clara, you can't say things like that," she said. But her voice lacked conviction. Nathan's gaze flickered to her, a silent plea in his eyes. "She's not wrong," he said quietly. "I've been alone a long time. You two, you're waking something up in me." He touched the bracelet, its rough twine grounding him. "I don't know what it is yet, but I want to find out." The moment shattered as a waiter approached, his expression polite but pointed. "Mr. Caldwell, is everything all right?" he asked, eyeing Clara and Anna with subtle disapproval. Nathan waved him off, his voice firm. "Everything's fine," he said. "They're with me." The waiter retreated, but Anna's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "We don't belong here," she murmured, gathering her things. But Clara grabbed her hand. "We belong where we're needed, Mama," she said, her voice fierce. "Mr. Nathan needs us." Nathan's heart thudded, Clara's words stirring a longing he'd buried deep. "She's right," he said, his voice steady despite the storm within. "Stay. Just for today." Anna hesitated, then nodded, her eyes softening as she saw the sincerity in his gaze. They spent the morning talking, Clara spinning tales of alley treasures, Nathan sharing fragments of his past, his rise from a scrappy coder to a tech titan, his fall into illness and isolation. Anna listened, her guard lowering with each word, her own stories of loss and resilience slipping out. But the shadow of Vivian lingered. Nathan couldn't shake the unease her visit had sparked. That afternoon he made a call, his voice low as he spoke to a private investigator he'd hired years ago to track Vivian's dealings. "Find out what she's been up to," he said, his fingers tracing the scar near his jaw. "Something's not right." As he hung up, Clara's voice broke through his thoughts. "Mr. Nathan, you're thinking too hard," she said, holding up a napkin with a crude drawing of a heart. "This is for your legs. Keep it close." He took the napkin, his smile genuine now, though doubt gnawed at him. Could a child's faith, a mother's quiet strength, truly mend what science had failed to fix? Or was he clinging to a dream as fragile as the paper in his hand? As Clara and Anna left, their cart rattling into the city's hum, Nathan felt a spark of resolve. He didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time in years he was ready to face it. The city's pulse thrummed beneath a sky bruised with clouds, its restless energy mirroring the tensions coiling in Nathan's chest. He sat in La Lumiere, his fingers tracing the crude heart on Clara's napkin drawing, now tucked in his pocket like a talisman. His navy dress shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, clung to his frame, the twined bracelet on his wrist a quiet anchor amidst his churning thoughts. The faint scar near his jaw twitched as he clenched his teeth, Vivian's chilling presence from the day before lingering like a poison. His green-gray eyes, sharp but shadowed, darted to the restaurant's entrance, expecting Clara's bright arrival, but haunted by the investigator's call he'd made. What had Vivian done to him? The question gnawed, as persistent as the strange warmth he'd felt when Clara touched his knee. Clara burst through the doors, her blonde curls a halo of light, her patched jacket swaying as she clutched a new gift, a bent spoon she'd polished to a dull shine. "Mr. Nathan," she called, her voice a beacon in the restaurant's muted elegance. "This is for you. It's a treasure for courage." Nathan's lips curved, a warmth spreading through him at her unwavering faith. "You're spoiling me, kid," he said, taking the spoon, its weight grounding in his palm. Anna followed, her steps slower, her eyes scanning the room with a mother's vigilance. Her worn coat hung loosely, and her calloused hands betrayed the weight of their daily grind. Yet her gaze softened when it met Nathan's. "You're here early," Anna said, her voice cautious but tinged with curiosity. Nathan nodded, signaling for the waiter. "Couldn't sleep," he admitted, his tone low. "Your kids got me thinking." The table soon filled with warm muffins, scrambled eggs, and juice, the aroma of fleeting escape from the storm brewing within him. Clara dove in, her chatter filling the air, but Anna's eyes lingered on Nathan, sensing the unrest beneath his calm exterior. "Something's wrong," she said quietly, her hands folding tightly in her lap. "What is it?" Nathan hesitated, his fingers brushing the bracelet. "That woman yesterday, Vivian," he said, his voice rough. "She's my ex-wife. I think she might have hurt me." Anna's breath caught, her protective instincts flaring. "Hurt you how?" she asked, leaning forward. Clara, pausing mid-bite, tilted her head. "Is that why your legs are sleeping?" she asked, her blue eyes piercing. Nathan's chest tightened, her innocence cutting through his guarded walls. "Maybe," he said, the word heavy with the truth he wasn't ready to face. "I've got someone looking into it." Before Anna could press further, Nathan's phone buzzed, the screen lighting up with the investigator's name. He excused himself, wheeling to a quieter corner, his heart pounding. "What did you find?" he asked, his voice low. The investigator's tone was grim. "Vivian bought a rare neurotoxin 2 years ago, just before your symptoms started. Traces were found in your old apartment's glassware. She paid a chemist to make it untraceable. Slow-acting, designed to mimic a disease." Nathan's blood ran cold, his fingers gripping the phone. "You're sure?" he asked. "Positive," the investigator replied. "We've got receipts, communications. It's enough to go to the police." Nathan hung up, his mind reeling. Vivian's betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was a calculated attempt to destroy him. He returned to the table, his face pale, the spoon in his hand trembling slightly. Clara noticed immediately. "Mr. Nathan, you look scared," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "Don't be. We're here." Anna's eyes narrowed, her maternal instincts on high alert. "What did you learn?" she asked, her tone sharp. Nathan exhaled, his green-gray eyes meeting hers. "Vivian poisoned me," he said, the words raw like glass in his throat. "That's why I can't walk." Anna's hand flew to her mouth, horror flickering across her face. Clara, undaunted, climbed onto her chair, her small hand reaching for Nathan's. "That's why your heart's so heavy," she said, her voice steady. "But we can fix it. You just have to believe." Nathan wanted to laugh, to dismiss her words as childish, but the warmth from her touch lingered, stronger now, a faint tingling spreading through his knee. His breath hitched, his eyes widening. "I felt something," he whispered, almost afraid to voice it. Anna leaned forward, her skepticism warring with hope. "Felt what?" she asked. "My leg," Nathan said, his voice shaking. "It's tingling." Clara's face lit up, a radiant smile breaking through. "See? It's waking up. I told you." Anna's hand tightened on Clara's shoulder, her eyes searching Nathan's. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathan nodded, his heart racing. "It's faint, but it's real." He didn't understand it. Science had failed him, yet this child's touch, her unshakable faith, seemed to stir something his doctors couldn't. "What do we do now?" Anna asked, her voice trembling with possibility. "We keep going," Clara said, her eyes gleaming. "Every day you say 3 happy things, Mr. Nathan. Today's are easy. 1, you're brave. 2, you told us the truth. 3, your legs are listening." Nathan's laugh was soft, almost broken, but it carried a spark of hope. "You're something else, kid," he said, his fingers brushing the napkin drawing in his pocket. Anna watched him, her guard softening, a flicker of trust blooming. "If this is real," she said, "you need to see a doctor, and you need to deal with her." Nathan nodded, his jaw tightening. "I'm calling the police today," he said. "Vivian's not getting away with this." But as he spoke, a shadow moved outside the window, a figure watching, unnoticed, their intentions as dark as the clouds overhead. Clara's voice broke the tension. "Mr. Nathan, keep my spoon close," she said, her smile a beacon. It'll help you be brave. Nathan clutched the spoon, its dull shine a promise of something greater. He didn't know if he believed in Clara's magic, but for the first time in years he wanted to try. The spring morning broke over Chicago with a tentative warmth, sunlight spilling through La Lumiere's windows and painting golden streaks across Nathan's table. His navy dress shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, clung to his frame, the twine bracelet on his wrist, a quiet testament to Clara's faith. The painted stone and polished spoon rested in his pocket beside the napkin heart, each a fragile anchor to the hope he scarcely dared to embrace. His green-gray eyes, sharp but haunted, flickered with a restless energy. The tingling in his leg from the previous day, now a persistent hum, like a distant melody stirring to life. The faint scar near his jaw caught the light as he clenched his teeth, the investigator's revelation about Vivian's poison burning in his mind. He'd called the police, setting in motion a reckoning, but the shadow he'd glimpsed outside the restaurant lingered, a whisper of danger yet to come. Clara burst through the doors, her blonde curls bouncing, her patched jacket replaced by a slightly less worn sweater Anna had mended. Her blue eyes gleamed with purpose, a new gift clutched in her hands, a tiny feather, soft and gray, plucked from the city's grit. "Mr. Nathan," she called, her voice a bright chime against the restaurant's morning hush. "This is for you. It's a feather for flying, even if it's just in your heart." Nathan's lips curved, a warmth spreading through him at her relentless optimism. "You're going to fill my pockets, kid," he said, taking the feather, its softness a stark contrast to the weight of his thoughts. Anna followed, her steps steadier, but her eyes still wary, scanning the room for threats. Her coat, patched but clean, hung loosely, and her calloused hands betrayed the endless days of scavenging. "She wouldn't let us miss today," Anna said, her voice soft but edged with concern. "Said it was important." Nathan nodded, signaling for the usual breakfast spread, pancakes, fruit, coffee, the aroma filling the air with a fleeting sense of home. "She's not wrong," he said, his gaze meeting Anna's. "Something's happening. I felt it yesterday. My leg." Clara's face lit up, her small frame practically vibrating. "I knew it," she said, climbing onto her chair. "Your heart's waking up, and your legs are listening." Anna's breath caught, her skepticism battling the hope in Nathan's eyes. "You're sure it wasn't just imagination?" she asked, her voice trembling. Nathan shook his head, his fingers brushing the spoon in his pocket. "It's real," he said. "Faint but real, like a spark." Clara leaned forward, her eyes wide. "Today's the day, Mr. Nathan," she declared. "You're going to take a step. I dreamed it. There was light all around you, and it went to your toes." Nathan's heart thudded, her words stirring a mix of fear and longing. He'd spent 2 years believing his body was a lost cause, yet this child's faith was rewriting his reality. Anna's hand rested on Clara's shoulder, her voice cautious. "Sweetheart, even if he's feeling something, walking takes time. Doctors, therapy—" "No," Clara interrupted, her voice fierce. "It's not just doctors. It's magic, Mama Anna. Love makes things happen." Nathan's throat tightened, her certainty both absurd and magnetic. He glanced at Anna, her guarded expression softening, and felt a pull toward them both, a lifeline he hadn't known he needed. The moment was broken by a sharp buzz from Nathan's phone. He glanced at the screen, a text from the investigator. "Police have Vivian in custody, but watch your back. She had contacts watching you." Nathan's jaw clenched, the shadow from yesterday now a tangible threat. He slipped the phone into his pocket, his eyes meeting Anna's. "Trouble?" she asked, her voice low. Nathan nodded, his voice steady despite the storm within. "Vivian's been arrested," he said, "but she wasn't working alone." Anna's eyes widened, her hand tightening on Clara's. "What does that mean for us?" she asked. Nathan leaned forward, his green-gray eyes resolute. "It means we stick together," he said. "I'm not letting her scare you away." Clara, undaunted, reached for his hand. "You're brave, Mr. Nathan," she said. "Now stand up. Try." Nathan's breath hitched, the weight of her words pressing against his doubt. He gripped the armrests of his wheelchair, the tingling in his legs now a pulsing warmth, stronger than before. Anna moved to his side, her hands hovering, ready to catch him. "You don't have to," she said, but her eyes betrayed her hope. Nathan shook his head, his undercut hair falling over his forehead. "I want to," he said, his voice raw. Slowly he pushed himself up, his legs trembling but responding, as if waking from a long sleep. The restaurant's hum faded, the world narrowing to Clara's expectant gaze and Anna's steady presence. His right leg shifted, a shaky step forward, barely an inch, but undeniable. Anna gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Clara clapped, her laughter ringing out. "You did it!" she cried, throwing her arms around him as he sank back into the chair, his heart pounding. Nathan's eyes stung, the reality of his movement crashing over him. "I don't understand," he whispered, his voice breaking. Clara grinned, her feather still in his hand. "It's the magic," she said. "Your heart's getting stronger." Anna, tears in her eyes, touched his shoulder. "Whatever this is," she said, "it's real." But as they celebrated, a man in a dark coat lingered outside, his eyes fixed on Nathan through the window. Vivian's arrest hadn't ended the threat. Her allies were watching, waiting. Nathan clutched the feather, its softness a promise against the gathering storm. He didn't know what lay ahead, but with Clara and Anna by his side, he was ready to fight for the light they'd kindled. The echo of Nathan's shaky step lingered in the air, a fragile miracle that pulsed through La Lumiere's quiet morning. Nathan sat back in his wheelchair, his navy dress shirt slightly rumpled, the twine bracelet on his wrist catching the sunlight streaming through the restaurant's windows. His green-gray eyes, alive with a fire he hadn't felt in years, flickered between Clara's radiant smile and Anna's tear-streaked face. The faint scar near his jaw twitched as he exhaled, the tingling in his legs now a steady hum, like a heartbeat reawakening. The feather Clara had given him rested in his hand, its soft gray a quiet promise against the investigator's warning of Vivian's allies watching from the shadows. Nathan's heart raced, not just from his movement, but from the weight of what Clara and Anna had become to him. A lifeline, a reason to fight. Clara, her blonde curls bouncing, clapped her hands, her laughter a melody that drowned out the restaurant's murmurs. "I told you, Mr. Nathan," she said, her blue eyes gleaming. "Your legs are waking up because your heart is." Anna, still gripping Nathan's shoulder, shook her head in disbelief, her worn coat brushing against the table. "I don't understand," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "How is this possible?" Nathan's fingers tightened around the feather, his voice low. "I don't know," he said, "but I'm not questioning it anymore." Clara climbed onto his lap, her small frame warm and fearless. "It's the magic," she said, her voice firm. "You're believing again, and that's what makes things happen." Nathan's throat tightened, her words slicing through the walls he'd built around his heart. For 2 years, he'd lived in a haze of betrayal and pain. Vivian's poison, a secret that had nearly destroyed him. Now, this child's faith, her scavenged gifts, stone, spoon, feather, were pulling him back to life. He glanced at Anna, her calloused hands trembling, and saw a mirror of his fragile hope. "We need to get you to a doctor," Anna said, her voice steadying. "This, whatever it is, it needs to be checked." Nathan nodded, his undercut hair falling over his forehead. "I called Dr. Harper yesterday," he said. "She's meeting me this afternoon." But Clara shook her head, her curls swaying. "Doctors help, but love fixes," she said. "You need us too, Mr. Nathan." Nathan's smile was soft, almost broken. "You're right, kid," he said. "I do." The moment was shattered by a sharp rap at the restaurant's window. A man in a dark coat, his face obscured, stood outside, his gaze fixed on Nathan. Anna's breath caught, her hand pulling Clara closer. "Who's that?" she asked, her voice low. Nathan's jaw clenched, the investigator's warning ringing in his ears. "Someone Vivian knew," he said, his voice hard. "They're watching us." Clara, undaunted, pressed her face to the glass, her eyes narrowing. "They can't stop us," she said. "Love's stronger than mean people." Nathan's heart thudded, her courage a spark in the gathering storm. He wheeled closer to the table, his green-gray eyes resolute. "We're not running," he said, his voice firm. "Not from them, not from this." Anna's gaze met his, a flicker of trust breaking through her fear. "What do we do?" she asked. Nathan leaned forward, his fingers brushing the napkin hard in his pocket. We stick together, he said, and I keep you safe. The day unfolded in a blur of action. Nathan arranged for Dr. Elena Harper to meet them at his penthouse, a sprawling space of glass and steel that felt less like a tomb with Clara and Anna there. Clara explored, her laughter echoing off the high ceilings, while Anna, hesitant but curious, traced the sleek furniture with her fingers. Dr. Harper arrived, her eyes wide as she examined Nathan, her test confirming the impossible. His nerves were regenerating, a slow but undeniable recovery. This shouldn't be happening, she said, her voice laced with awe. Your body's responding to something we can't explain. Clara, perched on a leather couch, grinned. It's the magic, she said, holding up a new gift, a twisted wire shaped like a star. I made this for you, Mr. Nathan. For hope. Nathan took it, his fingers trembling, the tingling in his legs stronger now, a warmth spreading to his toes. You're something else, kid, he said, his voice thick. Anna watched, her guard softening, a smile breaking through as Clara's star caught the light. But the threat loomed. That evening, Nathan received a call from the investigator. Vivian's associates are moving, he said. They know you're recovering, and they're not happy. Be careful. Nathan's jaw tightened, his eyes scanning the penthouse's windows, the city's skyline a glittering mask hiding danger. He turned to Anna, who was mending a tear in Clara's sweater, her hands steady despite the fear in her eyes. I'm not letting them hurt you, he said. Either of you. Anna's gaze met his, a silent understanding passing between them. We're not your burden, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Nathan shook his head, his green-gray eyes fierce. You're not a burden, he said. You're my reason. Clara, overhearing, climbed onto his lap again, her star in his hand. We're a family now, she said, her voice solemn. Families fix each other. Nathan's heart swelled, the weight of her words anchoring him. He didn't know if he could protect them from Vivian's allies, but for the first time, he wanted to try. As night fell, the city's lights casting shadows across the penthouse, Nathan clutched Clara's star, its rough edges a promise of something greater. Whatever came next, he'd face it with them, bound by a child's faith in a mother's quiet strength. The Chicago skyline glittered beyond the penthouse windows, its lights a constellation of hope against the velvet night. Nathan stood, unsteadily but upright, leaning on a sleek cane, his navy dress shirt traded for a tailored green vest that hugged his frame, the twine bracelet still on his wrist like a sacred vow. His green-gray eyes, once clouded by despair, now burned with purpose, the faint scar near his jaw softened by a rare smile. The tingling in his legs had grown into a steady warmth, each step a testament to Clara's unshakable faith. Her star-shaped wire gift rested in his pocket alongside the stone, spoon, and napkin heart, each a relic of their journey. Vivian's allies loomed closer, their threat a shadow over the fragile family he'd found. But tonight, Nathan's heart was fixed on the two souls who'd rekindled his fire. Clara skipped into the room, her blonde curls adorned with a tiny ribbon, her patched sweater replaced by a soft blue dress Anna had painstakingly sewn. Her blue eyes sparkled, a new treasure clutched in her hands, a small glass bead, scavenged from the city's edges, shimmering like a captured star. Mr. Nathan, she called, her voice a melody that filled the penthouse's sterile expanse. This is for you. It's for forever. Nathan knelt, his cane steadying him, and took the bead, its weight light but profound. Forever's a big promise, kid, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Clara grinned. I keep my promises. Anna followed, her worn coat swapped for a simple cream dress, her calloused hands smoothing the fabric nervously. Her eyes, wary but warm, met Nathan's, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they'd forged. She insisted on coming here tonight, Anna said, her voice soft but steady. Said it was the last step. Nathan nodded, his undercut hair catching the light. She's right, he said. Dr. Harper called today. My nerves. They're healing faster than she thought possible. I'll walk without this soon. He tapped the cane, his smile widening. Clara clapped, her laughter echoing. I told you, it's the magic. Anna's lips curved, her skepticism fading in the face of Nathan's progress. "It's more than magic," she said, her voice trembling. "It's you, both of you." Nathan's heart swelled, the weight of their shared journey anchoring him. He'd reported Vivian's allies to the police, their network unraveling under the investigators' evidence. But the danger wasn't gone. Tonight, though, he wanted to hold on to this moment, this light. The penthouse, once a tomb, felt alive with Clara's chatter and Anna's quiet presence. Nathan had arranged a dinner, not at La Lumiere, but here, in his home, a small table set with candles, pasta, and fresh bread, a nod to the meals that had bound them. As they ate, Clara spun tales of their future, her voice painting pictures of parks and picnics. "You'll run with me, Mr. Nathan," she said, her eyes gleaming, "and Mama Anna will laugh." Nathan glanced at Anna, her smile a rare gift, and felt a certainty settle in his bones. But the night wasn't without its shadows. A sharp knock at the door broke the warmth, and Nathan's hand tightened on his cane. Anna's eyes flicked to Clara, her protective instincts flaring. "Stay here," Nathan said, his voice firm, and wheeled to the door, his legs still too weak for long distances. A man stood there, his dark coat familiar, his eyes cold. "You're making a mistake, Caldwell," he said, his voice low. "Vivian's gone, but we're not. Back off, or the kid and her mother pay." Nathan's jaw clenched, his green-gray eyes blazing. "Touch them, and you'll regret it," he said, his voice a blade. The man smirked but retreated, his shadow swallowed by the night. Nathan returned, his face pale but resolute. "Who was that?" Anna asked, her voice trembling. Nathan hesitated, then told the truth. "One of Vivian's people," he said. "They're trying to scare us." Clara, undaunted, climbed onto his lap. "They can't stop us," she said, her voice fierce. "We're stronger." Nathan's arms closed around her, his heart pounding. "You're right, kid," he said. "We are." The next months blurred with progress and peril. Nathan's therapy intensified, his steps growing surer, his cane soon discarded. The police dismantled Vivian's network, arrests piling up, but the threat lingered, a constant reminder of the cost of their bond. Nathan moved Anna and Clara into a cozy apartment in his building, their days of scavenging replaced by stability. Anna took a job managing Nathan's charitable foundation for orphans, her skills shining, while Clara declared herself the heart doctor, prescribing daily doses of gratitude. One evening, under a sky ablaze with stars, Nathan knelt before Anna in the penthouse's garden, Clara at his side. "Marry me," he said, his voice raw with love. "Both of you. You're my family." Anna's eyes glistened, her hand finding his. "Yes," she whispered, her smile a beacon. Clara squealed, her bead gift now on a chain around Nathan's neck. "I'm the flower girl," she declared. In a small Chicago chapel, Nathan walked down the aisle, his steps steady, his green vest gleaming, the twine bracelet a quiet vow. Clara, in a flower girl's dress, scattered petals with glee, her laughter filling the air. Anna, radiant in cream, met his gaze, their hands entwining. The congregation, Dr. Harper the investigator, a few loyal friends, watched a miracle unfold. The society pages called it the wedding of the year, but for Nathan, Anna, and Clara, it was simply home. The true magic wasn't Nathan's legs, healed against all odds. It was the family forged from a child's faith, a mother's strength, and a man's rediscovered heart. As Clara danced under the chapel's lights, her beads sparkling on Nathan's chain, they knew that love, pure and fearless, had made the impossible inevitable. The Chicago night sparkles, its skyline a testament to dreams reborn. Nathan, Anna, and Clara, once strangers bound by chance, now stand as a family, their hearts woven together by a 7-year-old's unshakable faith. Clara's scavenged treasures, stone, spoon, feather, star, bead, rest in Nathan's penthouse, silent witnesses to a miracle that defied science. His steps, once impossible, now echo through their shared home, a rhythm of love and resilience. Anna's laughter, once rare, fills the air, her strength a beacon for Nathan's healed heart. Clara, their radiant spark, dances under the stars, her belief in magic proving that even the darkest wounds can mend. This tale of a child's promise, a mother's courage, and a man's redemption asks, what does love mean to you? Did Clara's faith move you, or was it Anna's quiet fortitude? Nathan's reclaimed hope? Share your thoughts below. What did this story stir in your heart? In 3 to 7 words, tell us how their journey ends for you and where you're reading from, day or night. Your voice adds light to this tale, just as Clara's did for Nathan. Thank you for walking this path with us, for letting these characters live in your imagination. Your presence here at 11 a.m. on a July morning or wherever you are means the world. Subscribe to join us for more stories where love defies the impossible, and we'll meet again under new streetlights, where hope always finds a way.